Hello everyone, and welcome back to Speak and Grow English. Today, I want to tell you a short story. Imagine two friends who both decide to learn English. The first friend is excited. On the very first day, they download 5 learning apps, subscribe to 10 YouTube channels, buy 2 grammar books, save hundreds of vocabulary words, and create a study schedule that lasts 3 hours every day. The second friend does something much simpler. They choose 1 book, 1 notebook, 1 YouTube channel, and 1 simple goal. Learn a little. Learn it well. Now, let me ask you a question. After 3 months, who do you think is still learning English? You might be surprised, but in many cases, it's the second person. Not because they're smarter, not because they have more free time, but because they understood one important rule. Learning is not about collecting information. It's about keeping information. This is something many English learners don't realize. Every day, thousands of people search for new vocabulary lists, new grammar lessons, new speaking tips, new YouTube videos. But very few people stop and ask, how much of yesterday's lesson do I still remember? Think about your phone for a moment. What happens if you keep downloading apps, but never delete the ones you don't use? Soon, your phone becomes full, and finding the app you actually need becomes difficult. Your brain works in a surprisingly similar way. If you keep adding new information without organizing or using it, everything starts to feel mixed together. That's why some learners know how hundreds of English words, but can't remember the right one during the conversation. The problem isn't money. The problem is overload. Here's something that psychologists have discovered. Our brains don't remember information simply because we read it. They remember information that we return to. Imagine you meet someone for the first time. You hear their name once. A week later, you might forget it. But if you meet the same person every day, for a month, you'll never forget their name. Words work exactly the same way. The more often you meet them, the more familiar they become. So instead of learning 20 new words today, what if you learned 5 and actually used them? Write a sentence. Say it aloud. Use it in a message. Notice it in a movie. Suddenly, those 5 words become part of your everyday English. Now, compare that with learning 20 words that you never use again. Which method do you think your brain prefers? The answer is obvious. Your brain values repetition more than speed. Let's talk about another habit that often slows people down. Many learners finish a lesson and immediately ask, "What's next?" But successful learners ask a different question. What did I really understand? Those 2 questions lead to 2 completely different results. One person keeps moving. The other person keeps improving. Imagine you're learning to play piano. Would you learn a new song every single day without practicing yesterday's song? Probably not. You'd repeat the same notes until your fingers move naturally. English deserves the same patience. Real learning isn't exciting every single day. Sometimes, it's simply reviewing yesterday's lesson 1 more time. And that's perfectly okay. In fact, that's where real progress begins. Because fluency isn't built from thousands of different lessons. It's built from hundreds of small ideas that become permanent. So today, before opening another English app or searching for another video, stop for a moment and ask yourself, have I really mastered What I learned yesterday, that one question, might completely change the way you learn English. And it might save you months of frustration. Let's continue with that idea. Imagine you plant a small tree today. Would you dig it up tomorrow just to plant another one? Of course not. You would water it, protect it, and give it time to grow. Your English works exactly the same way. Every new lesson is like planting a seed, but your daily review is the water that helps you grow. Without that water, even the best lesson slowly disappears from your memory. Here's a simple habit that can completely change your learning. At the end of every study session, don't close your notebook immediately. Instead, ask yourself 3 questions. What is the most useful thing I learned today? Can I explain it in my own words? Where can I use it tomorrow? If you can answer those questions, you've done more than study. You've started building real knowledge. There's another mistake many learners make. They measure progress by time. I studied for 2 hours today, but time doesn't always mean learning. You can watch English videos for 2 hours and remember very little. Or you can spend 20 focused minutes reviewing one lesson and remember it for months. That's why focused learning is more valuable than endless learning. From today, don't try to finish more lessons. Try to understand your lessons more deeply. One idea that changes the way you think is worth more than 10 ideas you forget tomorrow. Before we finish, I'd like to give you a small challenge. For the next 7 days, don't search for a new English resource. Use the ones you already have. Watch one video again. Review one page of notes. Reuse the vocabulary you learned last week. You'll be surprised by how much you already know. Sometimes, the answers you're looking for aren't in another app or another book. They're already in your notebook, waiting for a second chance. So remember today's message. Learning more doesn't always mean learning better. Real progress happens when information becomes part of your everyday thinking. And that only happens when you slow down, review often, and choose quality over quantity. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Speak and Grow English. If this episode changed the way you think about learning English, share it with another English learner. And if you want more practical ideas that actually make learning easier, not just busier, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, keep learning with purpose, stay curious, and remember, it's not about how much English you study. It's about how much English stays with you. Goodbye, and have a wonderful day.